Hi, you're probably on my video because you were reading something about Dr. Awady. Let me tell you the rest of the picture that they happily and gladly omit from what they write about him. Dr. Awady has a master's degree of clinical nutrition on top of being a consultant anesthesiologist and a consultant ICU doctor and assistant professor and pain management consultant. Not only that, he's the son of a prominent scientist in Egypt, and he also graduated from the school of gifted children, top of his class, and he was also top of his class in his medical school. Two of my doctors here in the UK, who are from an Egyptian descent, they personally knew Dr. Awady throughout being with him in the school of gifted children and the School of Medicine in Egypt and working with him in hospitals. Their testimony was that he was a man of high moral standing, very conscientious, not money-minded, will say the truth where it is due, and one of the best doctors in Egypt. But this is not what you read on the internet, and let me get into that. Dr. Awady, through his observation and developing an anti-inflammatory elimination protocol, he noticed that when people live on low-fiber diets, as advised and followed by Dr. Alvarez in 1920, they are able to recover quickly. He banned the chicken because there is scientific evidence by many studies, long-term studies and short-term studies made by governments and scientific schools that are not funded by anyone except the government itself, found that long-term consumption of chicken and eggs affect the hippocampal inflammatory pathways in the brain. I'm going to leave you one of these studies. The studies are many, and I'm also going to leave you a text in the comments that sums up this particular issue. I will also leave many more comments with the links to other studies on eggs that were made by Swedish and Korean scientists, 12 of them. His problems started to show up with the government 12 years ago. It is not a secret that the Egyptian government is extremely subversive, tyrannical, corrupt, and is a deep state where most of the military men are also industry tycoons, and their families and extended families are industry tycoons. The military government in Egypt is heavily involved in food industries. So, his criticism of poultry, eggs, and the toxic load of many foods in Egypt, banning them from his protocol, made the military tycoons lose a lot of money. But this was not the start of his problems. The start of his problems with the medical syndicate that ended up firing him, it was not because of his diet. It was because of his adamant views that weight loss surgeries in Egypt that killed many or had severe and drastic health effects on the people who went through these surgeries were a crime against humanity in Egypt. This is a very big business in Egypt by professors who are older, more established, and far richer than Dr. Awady, because Dr. Awady did not use people for money. In fact, he gave his protocol out for free, and he told the people to follow his protocol for free without having to show up at his clinic. I have personally heard him in so many live videos tell people they don't need to come to his clinic because his diet was designed for the poor. It was designed to be fast, easy, and very straightforward. Dr. Awady had more than 5 million followers. I would argue that there were more followers because after he died, 25 million testimonies flooded the internet, forcing the Egyptian government to hire a small army of civilians to take them down, and they have threatened the people with prosecution and prison time if they repost his videos or post any testimonies. 25 million, whatever is left now is tens of thousands. People were testifying that when they followed his protocol, their eczema, arthritis, back pain, IBS and IBD, migraines, to name but a few, have either completely disappeared for months or years, depending on how long they've been following the diet. Okay, so this is what you have not heard about Dr. Awady. Now, what you have not heard about his inflammatory, anti-inflammatory diet. His anti-inflammatory diet is not a figment of his imagination, is not a delusion. It has solid scientific grounds, such as, again, the theory of the low-fiber diet started by Dr. Walter Alvarez in 1921, before society became a big corporation where money matters more than science. Dr. Alvarez has noticed in the United States that when people live on hard fibers, their health does not improve. And he recommended a low fiber diet based on foods that do have fibers, but it's a fiber that is easy to digest in the gut. Like what? Like potatoes, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, taros, and also easy to digest fruits like zucchini, marrow, squash. Dr. Alvarez became so popular and his diet was followed from 1921 until this very day throughout hospitals in all the world. I personally went for surgery 2 years ago where I had some tumors removed from my womb. At hospital, the dinner I was served was jelly or ice cream. The breakfast I was served was a slice of toast with butter and jam or some yogurt. Lunch was mashed potatoes and minced meat. These are all very low fiber foods because when your gut is sick or any organs where your colon is sitting on these organs, you don't need fibrous foods that will cause bloating, fermentation, and cause your colon to swell up or even double in size, pressing on the organs around your body. This is practiced and well documented. It is not a hoax. Dr. Awady's anti-inflammation elimination protocol bans chicken and eggs, big money, worldwide. He doesn't ban meat. He actually encourages eating meat like lamb, like beef. And as a matter of fact, he also encourages eating wild game. If you can hunt it and it's wild, you can eat it. As I said, I will leave the evidence below in the description. The pro-metabolic theory by Dr. Ray Peat in 1930s follows the very same principles. It bans some foods, but because the 30s were a time in human history where contamination and toxic residue in our food didn't touch dairy and didn't touch poultry, he allowed dairy and poultry on his diet. And just for the record, Dr. Awady does not ban all dairy because his diet has sufficient calcium, which is also something you don't read. The calcium comes from hard cheese, mature cheese, from tahini and halva, which is a type of cooked tahini with glucose or sugar where you get massive amounts of calcium. And on the subject of calcium, there is something called the calcium paradox. You probably haven't heard about it, but it is also something that scientists around the world don't understand why populations in the West eat high amounts of calcium but are suffering from osteoporosis, while nations abroad are eating literally 1/3 of this calcium, but they have way less osteoporosis or no osteoporosis at all, except in aging populations. Calcium paradox has been solved by Dr. Awady. It's not a paradox to him at all. It's because when you eat white flour that clogs absorption in your colon and makes your colon very upset and your intestines clogged, your absorption deteriorates. But if you ban white flour from your diet, and everybody knows white flour is not good for you anyway, again, it's a business in Egypt and around the world in billions of dollars. You cannot speak about against billions of dollars. So, in Western countries, where they rely heavily on white flour in breads and pastas, even 1,500 milligrams of calcium cannot help them, while in countries where white flour is not their main food, only 500 to 700 milligrams of calcium in a day are enough. That's one thing about what they broadcast out there, that his anti-inflammatory protocol is low on calcium. It definitely is not, because he also allows canned sardines and canned mackerels, and he actually recommends their consumption because the tiny bones in the can will give you a high amount of calcium. He didn't ban fish, as some of the articles say. He banned farmed fish because of the toxic load. And ask anyone in the UK and abroad about the lice in salmon. Yes, lice in salmon. And how they have to spray your salmon with pesticides, and how many professional nutritionists recommend wild caught fish. So farmed fish are the only thing in fish that is banned according to his diet. On his diet, you get iron from meat. The articles that say that his diet is very low on iron, but he allows meat, just shows you that the nature of the person who wrote this article doesn't know jack about nutrition. The last thing I'm going to say, that Dr. Audi allows fiber, but he allows fiber that will not upset your gut bacteria when it ferments in your gut and causes you constipation. He allows fiber that will help repair your gut wall, because he found through clinical studies and through scientific studies that leaky gut causes inflammation in all the organs that are surrounding that gut, and from there it will clog your lymphatic system. Symptoms like dizziness, blurriness, neck pain, left shoulder pain, unexplained heart murmur, etc., etc., and even joint pain is because of a clogged lymphatic system. And if you remove these foods like fizzy drinks, who argues out there that fizzy drinks are bad for you? He banned the fizzy drinks and energy drinks that are not allowed, that are not designed for children and regular people unless they exercise. He banned white flour. He banned the dairy for fermentation reasons, intolerance to lactose in your gut, how the lactose in your gut and some types of casein are no good for your colon. He also banned chicken and eggs, where the big money comes from. But he did not care about money. He cared about the health of his nation. The thing that created a lot of controversy and misunderstood around this diet is that he banned fibrous vegetables. At the same time, he allowed easy to digest vegetables, squashes, pumpkins, courgettes, potatoes, sweet potatoes, taro. And he also allowed the occasional consumption of many other vegetables in moderation, as long as they're not leafy greens, because leafy greens cause gas bloating and the blockage in your system. An easy example of that is if you put spinach and kale in your blender without water and try to blend them. See how that goes. The reason why I'm saying without water is that everybody knows that your colon will absorb the water from your food, divert it to your bloodstream for your kidneys to remove the water through your urine. Then you're left with hard fiber, constipation, fermentation, and pathological bacteria growing until they leak out of your gut and move to the rest of your body, causing every sort of inflammation, including inflammation to the brain, where you will suffer issues like anxiety, unjustified anxiety, sleep problems, mood swings, etc. Dr. Awady also allows fruits, but not just any fruits, fibrous fruits. He allows soft fruits that are known to humanity for millennia to have been eaten throughout histories, like grapes, dates, figs, plums if you peel them, pears if you peel them, apples if you peel them, peaches, etc. He recommended organic, but because the population in Egypt has largely been made poor by their military government, he asked people to, if they can't afford organic fruits, they can peel them. He allowed the odd consumption of banana because in Egypt, bananas are injected with growth hormones. This is something that he must have known from his prominent scientist father, who was a professor at the School of Agriculture and Agronomy. Dr. Awady was a man of many sciences, so to speak. Nutritionists like me are not qualified to understand everything he said. And I should say that I have a degree in nutrition. I don't practice it. It's for me to help me with my 28 diagnosed illnesses. So he did allow fiber, just the easy amount, the easy type of fiber. He did allow vegetables. He did allow meat. He did allow dairy. He did allow fish. What more do you want? What is missing? Grains? He allowed whole grains, banning white flour. He also removed the glooms. Sorry, is it glooms? Not glooms. Beans and stuff like that. I'm sorry. I'm not writing this. I'm just speaking freely. Legumes, sorry, not glutes. He also banned legumes from his diet because the type of fiber, especially in the skin, it heavily aggravates your colon. Yes, they are good for you. All the things he banned, apart from chicken and eggs, and white flour and fizzy drinks, are good for you if you're healthy, if you're athletic, if you have no symptoms. But this diet is for sick people like me. Some articles in the internet make it sound like those who follow the diet are a bunch of idiots. I can guarantee you I am no idiot. I have a master's degree in linguistics. I've worked with 2 presidents in the Middle East. I've also worked with the United Nations, and I've worked with the IMF, and I've worked on the team of ISO 9001. And I helped with the team that restructured and brought international standards to many multinationals. I know my way around a nutritional diet and a nutritional plan. I have followed this protocol for a month, and here are my results. And I shall be contacting my doctor in 3 months' time for me to make sure that my results are solid, for him to remove some of my medication, my 19 medications. I woke up in the morning on the 4th day of the diet. The 4th day for a reason, because your entire immune system takes 3 days to reactivate. During those 3 days, I was unable to sleep and unable to wake up. I had terrible nightmares with sleep paralysis. I also had cramps in my calf and my toes that woke me up, and multiple trips to the loo for night urination. My bladder was inflamed. All that was on my medical records. On day 4, all that disappeared. I also have problems with my vertebrae in my neck, thoracic spine, carpal tunnel, lumbar spine, sacral joint. But I also had unjustified burning sensations all over my body, including my neck, my face, my scalp, my feet, my heels, my Achilles tendons, my IT band. All that was gone on day 4. I can't tell you more. Like my chronic constipation, for which I take up to 11 doses in a day with no result. Constipation that has been with me for more than 20 years, but it became very aggressive, causing me to bleed back and forth to hospitals and doctors, colonoscopies, scans, tests, name it. It became up to a fecal impaction for 2 years. That disappeared in 16 days. 16 days. Now I have regular bowel movements. Now I have deep sleep and I wake up with no anxiety. Is it a placebo? You can say so. But here is the final thing I want to tell you. I used to be a weightlifter in the gym in my 20s. Ironically, my coach gave me few exercises that caused me damage to my IT band. My IT band has been inflamed for 30 years. 30. To the point that it had a fibrous lump on it for 30 years. Protruding. Obvious. For 30 years, I was not able to sleep on my right side because of my neck and because of that fibrosis. In 16 days, that was gone. The fibrosis was no longer visible and I could not feel it to the touch anymore. 45 days ago, before I started this diet, my physiotherapist on the NHS, and by the way, I have multiple, private and on the NHS, the gentleman on the NHS, he was not able to touch my thigh or my hip. It was so tender and painful. Another physiotherapist, he was not able to examine my ankle. It was that painful I screamed, and he had to leave the room for me to calm myself down. After 16 days on the diet, I shouldn't call it a diet, I should call it the elimination protocol. One of them was so shocked by my results that he asked for it to help himself. Is this still a placebo? Had Dr. Awady been born in a country that respects its citizens, a country with integrity, a country where the government is not into thieving people and looting the nation, Dr. Awady would have been celebrated. Just in the matter, Dr. Madsen has been celebrated in the United States. Dr. Madsen is the gentleman who brought the theory of intermittent fasting to the world. Intermittent fasting is a huge part of this protocol, but Egypt doesn't celebrate its citizens unless they are part of the military. Thank you for listening.